and we also touch all the suffering beings. We must be in touch with both. We must remember that there are beings caught in the deepest kind of suffering, like war, oppression, and injustice. They have no way to speak out about the suffering and injustice that they have to bear. There are pirates who are raping young girls. There are rich merchants selling arms to poor nations where children do not have food to eat or schools to attend. There are factory owners who use children as their workforce. There are people who are dying in prisons and re-education camps. In leprosy camps, there are children and adults without limbs, illiterate and without hope. These hell realms need bodhisattvas. When we stand before the mountain or flower and visualize just before we touch the earth the second time, we see that we are not only bodhisattvas, but we are also the victims of oppression, discrimination, and injustice. With the energy of the bodhisattvas, we embrace victims everywhere. We are the pirate about to rape the young girl, and we are the young girl who is about to be raped. Because we have no separate selves, we are all interconnected, and we are with all of them. How we live our life affects everything. So we must think, how have we lived our life so that that young man in Thailand has been able to become a rapist? We have only looked to our own material needs. The family into which that young man was born has been stuck in miserable poverty for many generations. His father was a fisherman who only knew one way to forget his troubles, and that was by drinking. He did not know how to bring up his sons, and he beat them often. His mother did not know how to provide education for her children. At 13 years old, he had to accompany his father on the boat and learn to be a fisherman. When his father died, he continued in his father's place. He had no resources of understanding and love. He was tempted to become a pirate because in just one day a pirate can have real gold which could lift him out of his miserable state that he feared would go on forever. On the ocean, there was no police force, so why not follow the example of the other pirates and rape the young girls on the boat they plundered? If we had a gun, we could shoot that young man, and he would die. But would it not have been better to help him understand and to love? Where were the politicians, the statesmen, and the educators to help him? Last night, on the shores of Thailand, hundreds of babies were born to fishing families. If those children are not properly cared for, brought up, and educated, some of them will become pirates. Whose fault is that? It is our fault. Statesmen, politicians, the electorate who puts them in power, and the educators. We cannot blame only that young man. If I had been born a poor child who was never educated, who had a mother and a father who were illiterate, who had been poor all their lives, and did not know how to bring me up, I could have become a pirate. If you were to shoot me dead, would it solve anything? Who is that pirate? He could be me, and the child he raped could also be me. All the suffering of living beings is our own suffering. We have to see that we are they, and they are us. When we see their suffering, an arrow of compassion and love enters our hearts. We can love them, embrace them, and find a way to help. Only then are we not overwhelmed by despair at their situation, or our own. Don't drown in despair. When you are in touch with the suffering in the world, it is so easy for despair to overwhelm you. But we do not need to be drowned by despair. Throughout the war in Vietnam, young people easily became the victims of despair because the war went on for so long and it seemed it would never end. It is the same with the situation in the Middle East. Young Israelis and Palestinians feel that the heavy atmosphere of war will never end. We have to practice to protect our children and ourselves from despair. Bodhisattvas can stand up and resist despair by their ability to listen deeply, to love, to understand, and to be deeply committed. As we touch the earth the second time, we are in contact with great and small bodhisattvas everywhere, and we feel their energy. Animals, plants, and minerals also suffer because of the greed of human beings. The earth, the water, and the air are suffering because we have polluted them. The trees suffer because we destroy the forests for our own profit. Some species have become extinct because of the destruction of the natural environment. Humans also destroy and exploit one another. According to the teachings of Buddhism, all beings have the capacity of awakened nature. How can we stop ourselves from collapsing in despair? It is because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are present in the world. They are not somewhere else in a faraway paradise. Whether we are living or dying, they are here with us. Benefiting everyone. Touching the earth helps us to purify our bodies and our minds. It helps us to maintain the awakened understanding of impermanence, interconnectedness, and no-self. The Buddha has said that whoever sees interbeing sees the Buddha. So as we touch the earth, we see Buddhas in us and we see ourselves in the Buddhas. We see all suffering beings in us, and we see ourselves in them. As we keep the prostrate position, the boundary between self and other is removed. Then we know what we should do and should not do in our daily lives. Because of this insight, we can do many things of great benefit. What have you done with your life? Has what you have done been of real benefit to yourself, your loved ones, and all beings? The deep commitment of the Bodhisattva is to relieve suffering. It is to make a career out of becoming an awakened one, a Buddha. When we make the decision to have our career be that of the Bodhisattva, we can let go of all the meaningless things that had attracted us before. We can let go of fame. We can let go of having a lot of money. When we make the decision, those things are easy to let go of. The Buddhas are in us. We are in the Buddhas. We can become Buddhas. We can become enlightened. Guiding ourselves. Use the following words to guide you in the beginning of your practice of the second touching. Touching the earth, I connect with all people and all species that are alive at this moment in this world with me. Visualize for a short time, standing before your preferred object before you touch the earth. I am one with the wonderful pattern of life that radiates out in all directions. I see the close connection between others and myself, how our happiness and suffering is interconnected. I am one with those bodhisattvas and great beings who have overcome the ideas of birth and death and are able to look compassionately at the different forms of birth and death without fear. I am one with those bodhisattvas who can be found in many places on this planet. They have peace of mind, understanding, and love. They are able to touch what is wonderful, nourishing, and healing, and bring it to others. They have the capacity to embrace the world with a heart of love and arms of caring action. I, too, am someone who has enough peace, joy, and freedom to be able to offer fearlessness and joy to those around me. I do not feel loneliness or despair when I feel the love and the happiness of bodhisattvas presently alive on this earth. Seeing their love and seeing the suffering of all beings helps me to live in a meaningful way with true peace and happiness. Strengthened by the love of bodhisattvas, I am able to see myself in all the beings who suffer. I am one with those who are born disabled or who have become disabled because of war, accident, or illness. I am one with those who are caught in a situation of war or oppression. I am one with those who find no happiness in family life, who have no roots or peace of mind, who are hungry for something beautiful and wholesome to embrace and to believe in. I am someone at the point of death who is very afraid, who does not know what is going to happen, and fears being destroyed. I am a child who lives in a place where there is miserable poverty and disease, whose legs and arms are like sticks, and who has no future. I am also the manufacturer of bombs which are sold to poor countries. I am the frog swimming in the pond, and I am also the snake who needs the body of the frog to nourish its own body. I am the caterpillar or the ant that the bird is looking for to eat, but I am also the bird that is looking for the insect to eat. I am the forest that is being cut down. I am the rivers that are being polluted, and I am the person who cuts down the forest and pollutes the rivers and the air.